3, 2, 1, enter pass. Keying with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and today I would say we are moving into the latter half of our run through flying boats and amphibians, and we're talking about the Martin PBM, the Mariner, as we move on. Now, this one, because the practical use of these aircraft was around World War II and shortly thereafter, we're going to be in that vein, and we'll do a couple of design aircraft. Now, the Mariner was designed in 1939, but do you know what was the end of the line for the amphibians was the helicopter. And you could see what is on my head. I don't know if you can get a good look at that. Hello. People are looking at me very strangely with my helicopter hat. I don't see these things before filming. And of course, the helicopter and amphibian helicopters were the demise of these flying boats. So without any further ado, I'm going to take this off and toss it off camera. Good job by the Kevin. As I said, the Mariner was designed in 1939. It was introduced, I'll go up ahead and throw up a plan view. It was introduced in 1940. It was retired. Now, this thing had some life. It was retired in 1964 by Uruguay. Now, it was produced, this is one of the rare aircraft that was produced post-war. The United States was drawing down its military aircraft production because they just had gobs of airplanes, and we've seen the pictures about they could just not get rid of them fast enough. It was produced from 1940 to 1949, and there's a reason for that, which I'm going to get into, because these flying boats, believe it or not, had a strategic purpose as well, especially after World War II. There were 1,000, now this is the thing that's shocking, there were 1,366 of these bad boys built. Now, there are a ton of variants. We're not going to get into the various aircraft, but I will talk a little bit about their roles. Glenn Martin Company, the Glenn L. Martin Company, I think, it was either Glenn Martin or Glenn L. Martin, and the manufacturer, put out the Model 162 in 1937. So imagine this is a 1937 design. To test it, they built a 3/8 scale. Now this is really cool. 3/8 scale that was called the Tadpole Clipper. That was to test the design. It was powered by a single Chevrolet 120 horsepower engine that was driving two props, but two air screws, but with belts. But imagine that maybe you've got like where the flywheel is on the engine, on the front of the engine, it's driving these belts, which are driving the air screws. It worked, and that's how they tested the airplane, the Tadpole Clipper. The aircraft came in after that as primarily a anti-submarine search aircraft. Remember, they were augmenting the PBY. And the reason for that was, well, the PBY had that tremendous wing, and it could fly in almost no air, right? Very slow. But they needed something that had really good range and would augment it, because what were they doing? This is what we're going to get into about why the aircraft has strategic significance, is search and patrol. And so they built these aircraft not only with, you can see this one has a little knobby thing there, and Greg, I'm sure, can pull up all kinds of pictures, because there were all kinds of fairings on this aircraft to hide various sensors, but primarily radar, search radar, attack radar. And the reason you would want search radar on a patrol aircraft or magnetometers was, Kevin, U-boats. Because at that time during the war, we were actively hunting U-boats at sea, especially when, and remember, amphibs are really important at that time, or the seaplanes, because there was an air gap with land-based aircraft could only get out so far. And what the Germans would do in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Battle of the Atlantic, was they would exploit the air gap. And that is where the wolf packs would congregate, and that's where they would attack these convoys that were going to Britain and other places. And they attacked ships in the Pacific, and we were dealing with the Japanese in the expanse of the Pacific, so they were used all over. But these aircraft were especially important in defending convoys during the Battle of the Atlantic. Now, they had search, as I said, search radar, they had magnetometers. The aircraft was successful in sinking its first U-boat, which was the U-158, in 1942. So the aircraft would actually become a scourge of U-boats. It was also used heavily in search and rescue. So it would go out and it was used in transporting troops, equipment, and supplies. So it was kind of a jack of all trades. So Kevin, you're going to ask me, how successful was this against U-boats? This type is credited with sinking 10 subs, 10 German subs. Now you have to remember also, we were reading the Germans' mail. We had cracked the code of the German military. So we were actually reading, and I've mentioned this before, we're actually reading all of their coded documents. We'd also cracked the Japanese naval code. So on both sides, we kind of knew where they were going to be. And probably the two greatest defeats that the Axis suffered, I would say, because we were reading their mail in the battle for the Atlantic, we kind of knew where the German convoys were going to be, or the wolf packs. And then in the Pacific is Midway, where we basically knew the Japanese were trying to attack Midway, sent that famous coded or sent an uncoded message in the clear. Midway did that they were out of water, and to prove whether the Japanese, we could actually read their code, and the Japanese came back and said, hey, Midway's out of water. So we knew that, and that's when the American fleet set up the ambush for the Japanese. Well, that wouldn't have been possible if we weren't reading their code. That doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing here, but it was critical in the success of a lot of these aircraft. A lot of this stuff wasn't happenstance, that we were out looking, we knew they were in a certain area, we just had to find them. Now, the group that I'm going to salute today is, we haven't talked much about the Battle of the Atlantic, and air power played a pivotal role in defeating the Germans and really setting up everything for D-Day in June 6, 1944. But these aircraft, and not only these aircraft, but PBYs, long-range B-24s, some B-17s, we've talked about the Hurricanes being launched off catapults off the ship, which really, this is a technical term, sucked, because you're flying a Hurricane until you're out of gas, and then you got to ditch and hope the convoy picks you up. That really, if there's any definition of sucks, that is, because imagine going to the Atlantic water and hoping that those guys are that the ship is going to pick you up. It wasn't until we got these Jeep carriers and could provide kind of cover in the middle of the Atlantic through aircraft carriers, these little small aircraft carriers, or these long-range patrol aircraft, that really solved a lot of the air coverage, and the Germans could no longer exploit that. So the group I want to talk about today is all of the soldiers, sailors, and airmen that eventually closed that gap in the Atlantic. And that air gap was critical. It was dangerous at the time, and if we didn't have it, the English really would have been starved out, and Hitler theoretically could have prevailed in all of Europe. So I am going to salute today with a teeny weeny can of M150, a non-carbonated energy drink. Oh, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's manufactured in Bangkok, Thailand. Yippee, skippy me. Caffeine content, 50 milligrams per 8.4 fluid ounces. This is 8.4 fluid ounces. So there's 50 milligrams of caffeine in here. There is 86% of your daily sugar content. So this is a silver bullet. It is dented, so botulism may be there. But we'll take, oh, there's a little bit of a pressure fizz there. I felt it. Now, we are, again, are going to salute all those folks, men, women, everybody who made that happen, and how pivotal it was in closing that Atlantic air gap. Cheers. Whoa. I don't know if there's high enough definition to watch my eyebrows curl, but man, wow. That is a kick and a half. Mandatory second sip, and that, as they say, will be that. Thank you to all of those folks. Now, it wasn't this aircraft, as we talked about. Uruguay actually retired their aircraft in 1964. They went all over the place. The Coast Guard used these, not just the United States Navy. They were also used by the British in a non-combat role, so they moved troops and equipment, so that was something that the British did with them. Although, from what I've been able to understand, the British weren't terribly impressed with them. They didn't like them as much as did PBYs and some of the other flying boats that we've talked about that they operated. They cast off a lot of their mariners to the Australians, which also used them for troops and cargo. And then it was used in Korea, probably in its last combat role with the United States Navy on search and rescue. And that was where it kind of petered out, but they were still given to a lot of these other third-party navies. The one thing that this aircraft has, and Kevin, this is where the truth is out there, the one thing that this aircraft was used for that gives it also notoriety is this was the type of search aircraft that was sent out on Flight 19, where those Avengers disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle in 1945. The aircraft took off in search of the aircraft when they knew they were having trouble, and in relatively short order, and I'm talking not very long at all, maybe 20 minutes, under an hour, disappeared from the radar. And there was a ship in the area that reported seeing a large fireball and an oil slick, but no remains of the aircraft or the crew were ever found. And that falls back into that enigma that is Flight 19. And Greg can throw up maybe a graphic of those Avengers and the search aircraft. Now, given the amount of open ocean and like what we've done with MH370, that airplane that disappeared not too long ago that they've still never found, the deep ocean could be hiding the remains of those aircraft. Or, Kevin, could be aliens. Could be those pesky aliens. You remember the movie Close Encounters where those Avengers showed up in the desert, perfectly new. Who knows? They may have gotten the old alien touch there, but who are we to speculate? Somewhere they are. The truth is out there, Kevin. The truth is out there. Now, that really kind of wraps up the Mariner. It was replaced, or the derivative aircraft was the Marlin, which we are going to talk about, and then of course the Mars, which we are going to talk. We're kind of telegraphing how we're going to work our way out here, but there were other aircraft in the line, and so it had a great lineage. It really did. The one thing about this is with the build rate, you would think there would be more surviving aircraft, but there is not. There is one aircraft at Pima, so you can see one at Pima. The other one's at the bottom of a lake, which they tried to salvage, and now it's just a dive park. They can't get it out of there. I think it broke up is what happened to it. But that is the legacy of the Mariner, which with that kind of a build rate, you're really surprised that there aren't more in museums. But there are not. Now, if you want to be the cool kid on your block, you need one of these hats. These are the new Palm Springs Air Museum hats. They have our new logo, and you need to click on that link and get one of these bad boys so you can impress your friends. It will also make you 5 miles an hour faster. It is proven in wind tunnel tests. Click on that link, and Jason will happily send you out one of those caps, and you can enjoy this fine, high-quality Palm Springs Air Museum merchandise. Now, if you came across us on YouTube, first of all, we're on our 201st episode, if you can believe that. This started as a lark during COVID, and we've kept going as we've gotten such encouragement. The channel has grown amazingly. I think we got a statistic the other day from our folks that help us do all this, that we had 3 million views on YouTube, and we really thank you for that. We thank you, all the folks that give of your time to watch this one-take kind of dance, or you want to call it stumble through aviation history. And so really, thank you for that. We appreciate it. And of course, leave us your comments. Leave us a subscription if you have an idea for an aircraft that you want us to cover. If you know somebody that can tolerate a one-take aviation history video without all the frills and bells and whistles, forward us to them, and maybe they'll give us a subscription. We appreciate that. If you come across us on Facebook, all of what I just said, we love your comments. Thank you so much for the likes. We appreciate that. On Instagram as well, we appreciate that. And none of this runs without donation. So there is a donation link on our description. If you want to send us a couple of shekels, we would appreciate that. We would be eternally grateful so that we can keep making these high quality videos with Kevin and all the great exhibits that we have here. We thank you very much. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day.
3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.